Okay, tonight we got Cameron, y'all. I am not going to take up a lot of time. He's out of Florida. He's been on here before, but his school has been up. Time flies. I'm going to tell y'all something. It seems like it was just yesterday when he opened his school, but I'm not going to take up a lot of time. Cameron, can you give us like a little recap of your life and kind of segue us up to today? Because a lot of people don't know who you are. Some of them do because they saw you the last time. But without further ado, we got Cameron in the house.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Thank you guys. And thank you, Chin, for having me on here. I love being able to speak to people on the same path I was on and am currently on. I love being able to help people in any way I can. So a little recap about me and my life. I grew up in Northern California in a trailer park. The trailer park didn't even have cement roads. Grew up on a dirt road trailer park. In and out of trouble my whole life. Had an alcoholic dad, stay-at-home mom. My dad was a labor worker, didn't know anything about business, didn't have a lot of positive influence in my life. Was a terrible student. See, if I had a 2.0, I was doing good, and I get to play basketball. That was basically the only reason that I would get even decent grades. So not a super good kid. Even when I tried college out, dropped out, didn't like it, couldn't pass my classes. Then, I in Northern California, marijuana game is pretty big out there. So I got involved in that. Then it started getting pretty crazy, started getting violent. Like people were like getting robbed and stuff. So I decided I didn't want to go down that path. But I was in and out of jail a few times at a young age just for fighting and doing stupid stuff because I was surrounded by people who weren't godly. I didn't have any godly influences in my life. I was not a Christian at the time. I was just headed down the wrong path. And then everything came to a head. Worst period of my life. My house burnt down in a forest fire in Northern California. Lost everything except for my truck. My job that I was working at currently, I worked for a logging company. They sent me up to Oregon to work. My second day in Oregon, I came out of the hotel. My truck was stolen. The only thing I had left. Truck was gone. So that kind of sent me down a very bad path. I started drinking a lot that day. I was really depressed. I was already depressed going into this, and then I just lost everything. And then that night I ended up getting in a fight. Me and my friend ended up getting in a fight with a bunch of local loggers outside the hotel, and it didn't end well for me. There was about 8 of them, two of us, and I got my nose broken. I got my eye socket broken. I got a concussion, ended up hospitalized. Then they took me to jail. Got out of jail, told the judge I'd never come back to Oregon. He ended up letting me off with a slap on the wrist, thank God. And then gets worse. About 3 weeks later, I herniated a disc in my upper back. And the doctors told me I was probably only 22, 23 years old. Doctors told me no more labor work. You can't, unless you get surgery. And I opted out of surgery. I was too young. I didn't want to get surgery on my spine at that young of an age. I wanted to try and heal it naturally over time. And I was dating who is now my wife. She was not my wife then. And she cut hair. And she was making more money cutting hair than I was making as working in the logging industry, and her job seemed way better. So she was like, you should go be a barber. You should go be a barber. I'd never even stepped foot in a barbershop. Never even been to a barbershop. My mom was a cosmetologist when I was really young, but then she quit working to raise me and my siblings. So she cut our hair our whole life. So I'd never experienced the barbershop. Then I started YouTubing it, got into it. I was kind of a creative person. I did graffiti, and I was into some artsy kind of stuff. So I kind of saw it for like an art. And then I decided to pursue it. I went to barber school in San Diego. Me and my wife moved from Northern California, packed up everything, went to San Diego. We wanted to leave that life behind us. My wife also had a rough upbringing. She had alcoholic parents as well. So neither of us had the structure in our life or godly people around us to lead us in a positive direction. And we understood that at a young age. And we could see our friends that were older than us, and they were heading down the same path as our parents. And we really wanted to escape that. We knew the only way to do that would be to just pack up and leave. So we left. We went down to San Diego. I went to barber school. I had to grind through barber school. My car while I was in barber school. So my life was much worse before I was saved. And I have only God to thank, because nothing worked out for me. I was in barber school. I had this beater Lexus. And then I got home from school one day and I worked at a Buffalo Wild Wings after school, and I parked right out front of my apartment, ran in to take a shower, came out, someone smashed the side in a hit and run. So my car was like basically totaled out because I couldn't afford to fix it. I could barely afford to live. So then I was riding a bike to finish barber school because I was committed to finishing barber school. I was going to be a barber. When I decided to go, I told all my friends, my family, and they all laughed at me. They told me it was a joke. I'd never make money. Typical story. I've proved them wrong, by the way. And so my car's smashed. Now I have to ride a bike like 2 miles to a trolley station, a subway kind of. And then I'd ride the subway for a half hour, and then I'd have to ride my bike for another 3 miles. And I did that every day for like 8 months. Then I got out. Me and my wife decided we're going to move to Florida, even just escape California, all the people there, because we had family in San Diego. They weren't good influences either. So we moved to Florida, don't really know anybody. We were working for a barber shop. We were both working at the same shop. And remember, I've only been a licensed barber for like 6 months. So I really don't know what I'm doing. And this barbershop owner contacts us on like a Sunday night or a Monday night. We're supposed to work the next morning. And he's like, hey, in 2 days, we're closing the doors, shut down. And this was before like we got hip and started using online booking services. So we only had 2 days to let as many people know as possible. We were still like old school paper scheduling book, like terrible idea. And we lost a bunch of our clientele. There was no barbershop for us to go work at. It seemed like everything was going to be awful. So we decided, hey, let's just open our own barbershop. I've been cutting hair 6 months. I could do it. My wife, she was a manager of Supercuts for a few years. Like she knows business. So we opened a barbershop. That ends up being terrible too, because we didn't understand how to properly operate a profitable barbershop. So we really struggled there. Now we just bought ourselves a more difficult job and we were making less money. So long story short, over 4 years, we end up really focusing on the business side, and we turned our barbershop into a barbershop that profits like 3 to 4 times the national average. And then we decided one of the biggest problems we had was we weren't able to hire barbers, and the barbers we could hire weren't good, or they had really bad habits. So every time we get a barber, they just never worked out well. They caused a lot of problems. They were drama, or they just weren't technically skilled. And we couldn't staff our shop. So it was really hard to maintain profitability. So we decided like, all right, well, there's only one school here and it's an hour and away, and they're not producing very good students, and no one wants to drive that far to work. So I guess we better open our own school, which we had no idea how to even start that process. And it's been like 2.5 years. So I don't remember exactly how I found you, Chin. It was on maybe YouTube or Instagram, one of those two, for sure. YouTube or Instagram. Looked up how to open a school, came across you. You were the only guy showing people how to do it. You were the only guy with the knowledge how to do it. Called up Chin, I don't know, contacted Chin somehow. And I still remember I was sitting in a Walgreens parking lot when I talked to Chin for the first time. And I said, is it worth it? And you said to me, let me put it this way. It'll put you in another tax bracket. Boom, money. All right, let's go. I want to be in another tax bracket as long as it's one up, because I'm already at the bottom. I need to move up a tax bracket. So then partnered with Chin, got his coaching, and now my school's been open. We've actually are hitting our 1 year mark, actually open, taking students this month.
So can you tell them when you were first getting the school together? Because I showed them, I showed them this.
Perfect. So yeah, when we started really like going through the motions to open a school, first we hired Chin as a coach, and then we didn't know anything about it. So we hired Chin, we started going through the process, and I don't know if it's like this in every other state, but in Florida, you have to have your building before you can even start the licensing process. So we were trying to find a building. We couldn't find a building for a really long time. And then I was searching all over the internet, couldn't find anything that was like affordable or big enough, or it was too nice, or like we just couldn't find the ideal spot. So I started driving around just looking for buildings. And there was this one right over next to our current building that was listed on a website. And I went to look at that one, and I noticed this building we're in now. And it used to be like the DMV or something. So the way it was built out, they were unable to rent it to businesses because it was structured really odd for any sort of other business, unless it was like a government business. So they hadn't rented it for like 8 years or something. So I contacted the property managers, and I was able to negotiate a lease deal for the building. And we got this building like 60% off for the first 3 years. And then we go up $1,000 for 2 years after that. And then we also, what was really important, which I can't remember the exact video you have on your platform, but you talked about when you're negotiating a lease, ask for free time in the beginning so that you have time to build out your school and go through the licensing process. And I remember that, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna shoot for Mars with this offer I send him, and hopefully we land on Moon. Like that's really where I want to be, but I'm gonna list off all these crazy demands, and hopefully we meet right in the middle where I really want to be. So I listed off the demands. We only want to pay 60% of rent for the first 3 years. We'll sign a 5-year lease. We're potentially going to be a really long-term tenant of the building. And we also want the first 6 months free. The guy sent back, deal. And I was just like, all right, Chin was right. Ask for the time. And he gave us this first 6 months. So in that first 6 months, we were fortunate to not have to pay rent while we went through the licensing process. So we had the building for probably 8 or 9 months before we actually opened. And now we're about a year into having students. And that building, we completely, the only thing we didn't remodel was like knocking down walls. We just used the walls that were there to our benefit. And then we redid everything. We had to put shampoo bowls in. We had to get plumbing in there. We had an electrician come in. Fortunately, being in the hair industry, we knew a lot of people that could do this work because we cut their hair. So we were able to get good deals. It's one of the benefits of being in the hair industry is you meet people who do everything.
Now, when you told people you were going to open a school, what did they tell you?
The response was really good. All the people that we had in our life who didn't believe in us because of what we did with our barbershop, we kind of defeated their beliefs. We proved them wrong. But we also cut those people out of our life. So the people that we surrounded ourselves were also other Christians. So they were very motivating, and then also business owners. So they really pushed us in the right direction. But when you said earlier, before we hopped on here, it will increase your status. People are amazed that we own a school. Like, who owns a school? You know, it's a really rare thing. So it's a pretty cool flex to be able to say I'm a school owner, and it does raise your status.
What made you believe in the program? Because we did finally get to meet at the ClickFunnels event, but before then we had never met each other. I'd never even seen you, but we just talked on the phone. So what would even make you invest in yourself, even believe?
Well, the reason why we were able to take our barbershop and make it so profitable is because we hired a coach, because out of desperation, we didn't know what else to do. We were going to close the doors or get help. We hired a coach, and that coach was so valuable to us. It really showed us the value of having someone who can teach you something that they've already gone and done. Instead of trying to blaze the trail on our own, we understood the value of having a mentor or a leader show us the path that has already gone through everything, that has all the answers to all the questions, who knows the laws, who knows the lay of the land. So when we found you, you were so much more knowledgeable in opening a school than anyone else we could find. It was kind of like a no-brainer for us that, like, if we could make it happen, we were going to make it happen, because we were dead set on opening a school. And we also knew that if we hired someone who knew how to do it, it would take us a fraction of the time to get to where we wanted to be versus trying to do it on our own.
Okay, so you working on getting the school together. Um, then you get all your paperwork, you do all that, you finally get approved. Now, what did you do after that?
Started running ads. So we started running ads. We didn't have a lot of money to run ads, so we ran them in a really tight circle. And then I started hitting the streets. I printed flyers. I started going to all the local barbershops and salons, giving the flyers out. That's one of the main things that we wanted to do, was because every barbershop here has problems staffing because there's no school. So every one of them has open chairs. So it's beneficial for them to have a school here. So we started hitting the streets, started going to the career days at schools. We really tried pretty much everything. We joined the local chamber of commerce so that we could announce our school in front of a room full of 500 business owners, because business owners typically know a lot of people, and business owners also typically have money. So if they have kids interested in going to school, they could probably pay for it.
So what made you do that guerrilla marketing, Cameron? Because a lot of school owners, some of them are kind of lazy. They don't want to hit the pavement. What made you do that?
Well, you did talk about guerrilla marketing in the course, and that's totally down my avenue, my like, that's my style. So when you talked about it, I was like, yeah, that's how we're going to do this. We're going to go out there. Word of mouth is king. We're just going to spread the news, spread the word as fast as possible. I mean, I even had stickers that I was just like slapping around town, like technically, I guess, illegal, but whatever. Like Home Depot parking sign, like boom, someone's parking there multiple times a day. Why shouldn't I should market there?
So what would you tell a school owner and a potential school owner on how to get students?
Word of mouth. In my opinion, and what's worked best for us is word of mouth, just spreading the word as far and wide and as fast as possible. And then also, I think it's really important to have like a pretty good social media presence, so that when people are talking about you, they have a place to visit and you can showcase what you're doing.
Now, tell us about the first date. No, tell us about the night before you open the school. You know you're open this next morning. Tell us that night.
Oh, I was so excited because, I mean, we opened the school probably at one of the most inopportune times. My wife was like 8 months pregnant. She was actually really mad at me. I'm not going to lie. I'll tell the story. It's pretty funny. So, this is my first child. So I was in straight up like dad panic mode. Like, I got to be the provider. I got to make money. Like, what? I don't make enough now. I got to give this kid the best life possible. So I was like freaking out, right? I got to do something. I'm not doing enough. My wife, she's very pregnant. We bought a brand new house, which is already probably the worst time to buy a house. So we're in the middle of moving. And then I already was working with Chin since she was like 3 months pregnant. So she was already mad about me. She was, I don't want to say mad. She wasn't really happy about taking on this whole new business endeavor. And then our son Cruz had been born right before we opened the school. So I was really excited, because it was like, all right, I have to prove my wife that I was correct, that this was a good move, even though it was extremely stressful. And I probably could have had a little bit better timing, but hindsight's 50-50. And then also, like you were saying earlier, I felt like it's what God wanted me to do. God put it on my heart to not only open a school to make money, but also because I love the industry. And I think the barber industry doesn't get enough credit. And I think that people don't understand outside the industry how much potential there really is in the career of barbering. So I want to expand on that. And I want to give kids another option other than traditional barbering. And like you said, it's also an opportunity for me to meet new people and speak life into them, because we get a lot of students in here who have never ever had that influence in their life. And because I didn't have it, I want to be that person. But yeah, I was super excited to open the school. In Florida, you're not allowed to advertise your school before you get licensed, which makes it really difficult to line up students ahead of time. So what I did is I put posters in the window, barber school coming soon, which I guess technically wasn't allowed, but I knew the odds of them driving over from Orlando or Tallahassee to where we are, it's like 4 hours away, were really low. We're really low to come look at the building on the outside. So I put the posters up anyway. And our first 2 students, there's a vape shop a Little Caesars and a liquor store right next to us. So, and they live in the area, so they would frequent those businesses, and they saw that poster. So they were waiting for us to open. They followed us on our Instagram. I also made an Instagram, which I technically wasn't supposed to do, but they were our first 2 followers. I just wasn't marketing on social media. So we had our first 2 students ready to start school the day we opened.
Okay, so that day, tell us about that day.
That day, it felt good because all that work that you see on here is only a fraction of what we did. So it felt really good to see that, sowing those seeds, we were finally get to start harvesting the fruit.
Can you tell us about the build out, the work that you had to do?
Oh man. And because my wife had just had our son, I was basically doing it alone. I mean, my wife helped as much as she could, but bringing a baby into a construction zone just was not ideal. Like the carpet right there, that stuff was glued down with crazy industrial strength carpet. It probably took me more time to rip out the carpet in the whole building, 4,000 square feet, than anything else. It took me probably like over 100 hours, easy. And then I had to grind all that glue up so that we could paint the floor. And then, so then we had one of our friends who is a contractor. He hooked us up with a plumber, and he was able to put those, you see those like spigots in the floor there below the yellow paint. Mm-hmm. Those are 2 shampoo bowl hookups. They ran the water over from a bathroom that's on the other side of the wall.
Okay. We'll keep going.
And then
let's see, hold on.
Oh, that's when we were announcing that we got our provisional license.
Hold on, let's see that. All right, tell them about that, Cameron.
That day, I'm not even gonna lie, that day was probably felt even better than the first day we opened. Because if you guys haven't started the licensing process, I don't want to say it's really difficult, but they just require a lot. There's a lot of yellow tape, and it's stressful because we already paid for this building. We're already signed, or we haven't paid for it yet, but we've already signed a 5-year lease. So there's a lot of pressure weighing on us getting our provisional license, because if they told us no, we were in deep trouble financially. We were taking a huge risk and a huge gamble on this situation. We wanted to start with a bigger building. It's not something I'd necessarily encourage or tell people to do. I would say go with a building that isn't going to break the bank and like financially destroy you. But we decided not to do that. We went with a bigger building because we wanted to be able to scale into it and not outgrow it.
Now, somebody first starting out, why would you tell them to start with a small building instead of like a big building? Because everybody wants to look at the Paul Mitchells, the Empires, or Vaders that had this nice elaborate. Why would you tell somebody to do a small?
I would tell money, really, like you. It can be really difficult when you first start if you're not financially prepared. And I think the only reason we got this building is because that the lease negotiation went the way we wanted. We got this 4,000 square foot building for like the price of a 1,500 square foot building. So we got really lucky. If he would have said no, we would not have got this building because we would have over leveraged ourselves. And right now, with the amount of students that we have, we could have easily done in a smaller building. If you properly utilize the space, you can fit a lot of students in a smaller building.
Okay. Tell us about this. What is that?
Oh, that was probably the worst part of the build out. Second, probably carpet number 2. This is the worst. That's me with a rented grinder from Home Depot, grinding the glue off the floor. And that is how slow this entire building went. And it just creates this massive dust cloud of glue particles. So I had to wear like that hazmat suit and a respirator, and it was super hot. I couldn't run the air conditioner because it would suck all the dust up in the AC unit. And once we turned it on, it would blow that dust everywhere. So I was in there, it was like 100 degrees. It was like July in Florida. So you can't see the pain and misery I was really going through in this, but it was terrible. But no pain, no gain.
Now, when you were doing this work right here, what was going through your mind actually when you were doing this?
I can't wait till I'm done. But what was really going through my mind was it's all going to be worth it. God has a plan for me. He's gave me a certain set of skills. It's my duty as a Christian to maximize what he's given me.
And tell us about this.
So on the far right, the dude with the beard, that's my brother-in-law, Mike. That's his wife, Jess. Right next to him, that's his wife, Jess, who is my wife's sister. That's how little Cruz was when we finished the build out, couple months old. And the two dudes next to me are Ryan and Jeremy. Ryan in the white shirt, he's one of our barbers. Jeremy, he's also one of our barbers, but also my wife's brother. And that day they were helping us do the baseboards and paint the walls. And I think Mike installed some ceiling fans for us that day.
Okay, and tell us about this.
That was one of the first Now Accepting student ads I ran. Built it out on Canva.
Okay. And what about this?
We just finished the baseboards. The saw you see there, I'm cutting the last of the baseboards for the classroom in the back. And this is pretty much how it looks now, just cleaner and full of students. And this was the last day of my cleanup and the floor was completely ready.
No, what were you thinking here?
I'm almost done. We're almost ready to open. Crunch time, home stretch. Excited.
Genesis Barber Institute here, bringing you the scoop on a really big promotion we're having to celebrate 4th of July and also celebrate us opening in July. For veterans who want to become barbers, we're taking $2,400 off total tuition costs. And for everyone else who is not a veteran, there's still some big money to be saved with $1,400 off the total tuition cost. However, we are limiting this to 8 students, so it's going to be first come, first serve. We have a feeling these are going to go pretty quick, so hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, Gmail, give us a call. Doesn't really matter. We'll get back to you. Y'all have a great 4th of July. Enjoy your week and be safe out there.
So tell us about this.
So we only had a couple students at the time, so we were really trying to fill this school as fast as possible. So we were willing to offer deals to new students because, our 6 months was up. We had to start paying the bills.
How many students did you start out with, Cameron?
We opened the doors with 2.
That's good.
Yeah.
I started with 0 for months. Okay. Now, when you had them 2, what were you thinking?
I just loved it. I was really happy to be in this new situation and building this new future for me and my family. I really like teaching. So we train all the barbers we hire at the school. So I already knew that I really enjoyed teaching. That's Steele. He was our first student. So yeah, I was excited, but also I knew that I had to get more students. So I couldn't just focus on them. I also had to focus on growing the business. Fausto, he was our 3rd student. He's in the military full-time, was working nights and coming to school every day.
How did you start? How did you get more students? What did you do?
We've gotten students from a lot of different things, but the number one thing now we are finding is word of mouth. A lot of people are hearing about us. So if I could go back a year ago, I would hit the streets way harder and just spread the word versus running any sort of paid ads. We made a deal with a local radio station that's like the biggest radio station. They do like an auction thing where you give them something, they auction it off, they get to keep the money, but they give you $10,000 worth of ad spend. So we got $10,000 ads worth of ad spend on the radio, and we put up 1 tuition. Nobody, we didn't get a single person off of running ads on the radio. So, and running ads on the radio is really expensive. So we would never do that again. Never do that again. No one even bought the tuition we gave. So we got $10,000 worth of ad spend for free, basically, but we didn't get any students from it. So I wouldn't do that. Facebook and Instagram ads, we haven't got a whole lot of action from that either. We kind of use that just to gain exposure so people know about us. But the main thing is just getting the word out. And then also a really good tool you guys can do is leverage the students you have. Use them. Like, we encourage them to post on social media all the time. So we have friends of students who end up coming to school because they see what they're doing. And what we're about to launch now is we're going to do a deal with a referral program with all of our students. If you refer one of your friends, family, or if you get someone to join, we're going to give you a free month of tuition, which is like $600.
Tell us about this picture.
So this picture is a bunch of cosmetologists that we got their barber licenses for in our Cosmo crossover program. That one in the back standing next to me, she's actually my mom. She was the one who was a cosmetologist when I was a kid. I got her barber license. She moved to Florida, and now she's our lead instructor.
Now, how does it feel to be able to employ and work with your mom?
As a leader in my family, doing what I biblically believe I should be doing as the man of the family, because I don't think my dad was that person. He should have been first, but it fell on me. Feels really good to be able to offer those opportunities and be the person blazing this trail in my family. There's a guy named Ed Milet, and he's a really good speaker. And he said something that completely changed my life. Two things. One thing he talks about is every family, every bloodline at one point started poor. And then there was one person who completely changed the trajectory of their bloodline and changed the trajectory of their family name. And you can be that person. And I took that to heart. I saw him live when he said that. I think I even cried a little. And I was like, I'm going to be that person. I'm going to be the person that no one thought would be that person. I'm going to do that for my family. So I feel like I'm falling into that place right now. And then he also said another thing that last time I saw him speak, whenever I have the opportunity, I see him speak because he's a really powerful speaker. But he said, how are you going to, and this is after my son was born, he said, how are you going to tell your son or your daughter that they can be everything, that anything that they want to be, if you're not being what you want to be? And I was just like, dang, that hits. Like, I can't tell my son he can do whatever he wants if I'm too scared to go for it myself. So now I feel like I have an obligation to be that person. I have to do it. But it also feels incredible to be able to offer opportunities to my family that no one was able to offer them.
And what does your mom say to you?
She bosses me around. No, I'm just kidding. She's really grateful for the opportunity. She really loves it. We pay her pretty well. And it's pretty easy job. I mean, in comparison to what she was doing after we grew up, she worked in a hospital for 17 years, a really stressful job around sick people. She worked in the ER, so she saw a lot of traumatic things. So this is good for her because it's a little slower paced. It's not always easy because you are working with students, but she really loves, she's a mom. So she gets to relive. It seems to me, looking from the outside in, she kind of gets to relive being a mom over again with all these students, because she gets to nurture them from knowing nothing to when they graduate. Like, every time someone graduates, she gets really emotional. She's like, they're gone, they're all grown up. So it's really good for her. And then also it keeps her in the vicinity of me. And I'm always trying to preach the word to her. I'm trying to get her into church all the time. And I think that I've become a positive influence on her life. So that makes me really happy as well.
And what is your wife saying to you now?
You were right. You were right. I'm still mad at you for the bad timing. I don't know if she'll ever forgive me for that, or she just has to hold that over me. But she loves the school now. She comes in here and she teaches 2 days a week.
So now, how does it feel to be a school owner? I mean, you've been a barber, you've been a shop owner, now a school owner. Can you tell people how it feels to be a school owner? Because there's about maybe 2 million beauty professionals, but it's not a lot of school owners.
Not a lot of school owners. So when you tell people that you own a school, they automatically, like you said, it's a status thing. They automatically have a higher level of respect for you. People just treat you different, because I think that it's known within the industry, like not a lot of people own schools, and it's not an easy thing to do. It takes discipline, and you have to be the right person. So I think it definitely does elevate your status, which for me, I like to be significant. I like to be important. So it feels really good to be that person. Now, whenever I go to events, people always want to talk to me. People are always trying to get my advice. People now are starting to, they pay me to talk to them on the phone about business stuff, not necessarily schools. I really don't take those calls because I feel like I'm not qualified to do that. Whenever someone asks me about schools, I send them to you. But now that people see that I've had a barbershop and that I was able to open a school, people will pay me $200 an hour to talk about barbershops, not the school, because I send them a chin.
Let's go back here. Now, let's see. Your logo looks good. Tell us about this logo. How did you even come up with that logo? Because it looks like you good with graphics and stuff.
Yeah, that's through a lot of time practicing. So everything on here, I create myself. We didn't have a budget to pay people to do this. So everything on here is done on a platform called Canva. If you guys aren't familiar with it, you can start it for free. But if you pay like $9 a month or something, you get a bunch of extra stuff. But everything that me and my wife do now is biblically based. Everything we do, we want to honor God. We want to treat people well. We want to serve people. So we wanted to create a brand that kind of stood for that. So Genesis has two meanings for us. Like for us, the beginning of creation, but it also, if you look it up in the dictionary, it's like basically the beginning of anything. So for us, it was like the genesis of your career, the beginning of your barbering career, or the beginning of your future starts here. And then the wing, angel's wing, take flight with Genesis.
Let's see. Now, and you can stop me at any time. So you all actually do all grades of hair, all nationalities.
Everything. We do color, perm, anything that a client will come in here and let us do on them, we're doing it. We don't turn anyone down. Because between me, my wife, and my mom, because I only have a barbering background, so I'm probably the best when it comes to like fades and edge ups and enhancements and those things. But then my mom has her cosmetology background, so she's really good with long hair and like bobs and cutting all sorts of women's hairstyles. And then my wife, she was a cosmetologist before she was a barber. She's dually licensed now, so she's really good with the color. So we've all been kind of teaching each other, us three as instructors. We're all really honing into everything. So like you can see that young gentleman towards the top with the tapers right there with the brown hair. We just did that not too long ago. He had black hair when he came in, and we did a high lift color on him and got him to that chocolate brown. That's what he wanted. So we really do anything, not only because we think it's important that the students know as much as they possibly can when they leave. Also, we can charge a lot more money for color. We don't charge as much as salons and barbershops, but we still need to make money as a business. So when we offer these services, they're higher price services. So that, like that dude paid $9 for a haircut and then $35 for a color. So for a school, a $43 service or $44 service is a really good service.
That is, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Now, how does it feel like the clinic floor, all the services on the clinic floor, can you tell potential school owners or people about that versus a shop, I guess?
Well, everything takes a lot longer. That's for sure. Sorry, could you reframe that? I'm not sure what you.
Okay, like you own the shop and you own the school. So how when the money comes into the shop, were you doing commission? Tell us about that.
So yeah, we do commission at the shop, but here we keep everything. The students will get cash tips and that's it. But other than that, every service we do straight to our pocket. So the profit margins are so much higher at a school for every service. And that's another reason why we do stuff like color, because if we can get those the more profit we can get out of services, the more money in our pocket. We don't have to give a piece of that away to anybody except for IRS.
Now, can you
unfortunately.
tell us about Mr. Ortiz here?
Fausto, he was our first graduate. He was our third student to start, but first to graduate because he was just super consistent, never missed school. Never missed school. So this wasn't probably one of the proudest moments I've ever had in my career because it was our first graduate. I felt like he was my baby. Like today, he just started at a barbershop, and I went and saw him before I came over here because it was his first day at the shop. I tried to get a haircut, but he was busy. But so like now I even feel like even after they've graduated, it's still my responsibility to help them make the right decisions, you know, and then that comes down to being a servant leader. And I think that's another reason why we are getting busy is because we really care about our students. It's not just about, hey, we're going to get you to pass a state board. That's all we care about. You're out. No, we really care about creating the best technically sound students we can while they're here.
Now he graduated.
Steele, second graduate.
Tell us about Steele.
So Steele now he actually, so there's a program in Florida where you can let students out at 600 hours if you think they're technically good enough, and they can take their state board exam. But if they fail, they have to come back to school for the remainder of the hours. So he chose to leave at 600 hours, and he started working at a barbershop, which none of my business. He's technically not supposed to, but he's a grown man. So he was working at a barbershop before he even got his license, but now he's doing like 9 haircuts a day at $32 right out of school. He's on like a $70,000 to $100,000 a year run rate. So he's killing it.
How does that make you feel to know that you have this impact to change people's lives, to help them?
Oh, incredible. So you thought like giving someone a clean fade or a clean haircut and seeing them super happy at the end of that service felt good. Wait till you teach someone 6 months, 8 months, a year later, and they're immediately out there making money and their life's completely changed and they're happy and they're doing something they love. They don't have that old job that they hated anymore. They have nothing but good things to say about you. It feels so much better because you're not just changing their life for a day like with a service. You're changing their life forever.
Now, when you got ready to transition from the shop to open the school, were you scared? Tell us about that mind frame.
Well, I was scared, but being a believer, I have full trust in God that he's always going to provide for us. And as long as we honor him in everything we do and we serve people with the right intentions, I think that God will always come through for us. So I wasn't that fearful. There were definitely times where I would forget to trust God and I would try to take it all on myself. And that's when I would be the most stressed out because I'm like, I have to figure this out. You know, we need students now. We got students graduating. We need more students. And right when I would be at the most stressful moment, I'd remember, you know, I just need to pray hard. And God delivers. Like we have 4 or 5 students graduating here in the next month or two. So we really need to replace them. And in the last 2 weeks, I've signed up 4 students. And we had our biggest day. We had 2 students in one day sign up, which was pretty dope. Out of nowhere, just called, was like, can I come down and sign up? And I was like, dude, come. Yeah, of course.
Now, when a potential student walks in your school, can you tell the people what you do, how you greet them, what you say to them?
Yeah, so when I first started, okay, to be honest, when you're a barber school owner and you're trying to get new students, you have to be good at selling. You have to become a salesperson. It's much different because you don't have, unless there's someone who's really dedicated to being a barber, a lot of people need an extra push. So when I first started trying to sell to people, I was doing it really poorly, and I felt like I was coming across desperate because I would like push them to do it as quickly as possible. So I've really stopped doing that, and people have reacted better. And I don't feel like I was being super pushy. I just felt like I was unintentionally come across as desperate because I was like, yeah, just sign up now. Like we'll do all this stuff. Like come in my office. And I don't think people reacted as well to that because it seemed desperate. So now when a student comes in, if the whole rundown is typically they'll call first and they'll ask questions. So like most of the time I'll talk to someone on the phone 2 or 3 times before they ever even come in. That's probably like 75% of our students. 1 or 2 points of contact before they come in. So I've already delivered most of the information to them. And then they come in, I show them the school, they see the culture, they see the environment. And then one thing that I think is really important to do is really highlight the benefits of being a barber to them, because a lot of people, unless they don't have a friend who's a barber or they aren't close with their barber, they don't really understand all the benefits that can come with the industry. So I really gas it up. Like, I don't lie, but I tell them, like, you know, you have potential to make 6 figures and above if you work hard. This is a career where you get you'll receive what you put in. You won't have, another thing that people like to hear is you won't have student loan debt. The average in the United States student loan debt is 40K. You're not going to have any. And the average bachelor degree graduate makes $25 an hour. You're going to make more than $25 an hour. Like, you are going to make more than $25 as a barber within a year or 2. And you don't have to go to school for 4 years. You don't have to be $40,000 in debt. Your school will be paid off by the time you're out. We'll help you get a job. We know all the barber shops around here. We're going to teach you basic principles. So what I really try to do is I try to highlight, instead of trying to sell them the program and try to tell them everything they're going to learn, I've come to discover that people don't really care about the process. They care about the outcome. So I really just talk about the outcome of their decision. This is what your life is now. This is what your life's going to become. Everything in the middle, as long as you're willing to get here with your life and this is your desire, they don't really care what's in the middle. They just want to get to this point. So I stopped going into like what they're going to learn technically as much and all these things. I just started telling them, like, hey man, you hate your job? I remember what that was like. I used to hate my job. Oh, you don't get to go on vacation whenever you want? I remember what that was like too. I go on vacation whenever I want now. Oh, you don't get to decide how much money you make? Well, guess what? When you're a barber, if you work at the right shop, you decide how much money you make. You decide how many haircuts a day you cut. You decide everything. You are in full control of your future if you decide to make this decision. And this career has the potential to deliver you everything you want. You just have to do it. So yeah, I've gotten pretty good at it. I've gotten a lot better at it.
Yeah. What do you think school owners, where do you feel they make mistakes? Even potential school owners, just say somebody's working in a shop, they're barber stylists or whatever, and they thinking about opening a school or whatever. What would you say would be some of the biggest mistakes that they could make if they plan on opening a school or whatever? Some do's, some don'ts, or whatever.
I think a lot of that kind of depends on your level, your risk tolerance. Some of the things that I did, I would not recommend to do, like get a really big building or advertise before you're open, because you're not allowed to. It's like strictly against the rules. So I think that you have to be really careful doing that and understand the risk. Some do's and don'ts. You know, to be honest, I don't know a lot of the do's and don'ts because I don't know many school owners. I mean, there's none around here.
Okay.
So I haven't really got to have a lot of those conversations with people.
If you had to start over, knowing everything that you know now, what do you feel is some of the most important things that you did that helped you or whatever, or things that didn't help you?
Well, 100% hiring you, because you made everything you provided us with, got us from point A to point B, probably years faster. If I had to write our own course catalog and enrollment agreements and all those things, all the mistakes that I would have made alone would have took me forever to even make all that before I started the licensing process. And then once I started going through the licensing process, they pick through everything with such a fine-tooth comb that my licensing process probably would have went from that 6 to 8 months that it took us to probably easily double. And so, and it also took us longer because we were doing this all through COVID. So everything was just so much slower.
somebody that is kind of scared or fearful, what would you tell them? Because we have people on here that they're working at a shop or working for somebody or whatever. And a lot of times when we venture into new territory, even if we're believers, believe in God, have faith, anytime you're doing something new, it's scary.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we have people on here that are great at what they do. I mean, they're highly skilled. Like, I'm not skilled at all and nothing, can't cut your hair, straight hair, but they're highly skilled, but yet they kind of scared in their confidence level when it comes to transitioning. What would you tell them?
What would I tell them? Like before they started the process? Like if this is someone just thinking about doing it?
But they're thinking and they get ready to do it. Or they're in the program, whatever, but they still, their confidence level, they still kind of scared.
Yeah. So I didn't have a whole lot of confidence when I started in my ability to operate a school because I'd never done that and I didn't know anyone who did that. I just had confidence in my ability to work really hard. So if you're willing to work really hard for what you want and you're willing to do whatever it takes, then I see no reason why you can't achieve it. I really don't, because that's what it takes, like any other business or like any other endeavor. I mean, if you're a great barber or cosmetologist, it wasn't because you were lazy. It wasn't because you didn't execute. It wasn't because you didn't put in the effort. It's because you worked really hard. You put in the reps. And I think it's the same thing with the school. It takes that same level of discipline and hard work. And I mean, you can really achieve whatever you want to achieve.
Now, how do you get customers?
How do we get customers? So I think the main reason why we get a lot of customers is because of our location. So because we're a school, we wanted to be in a lower income area and we wanted to be surrounded by businesses that offered cheap stuff or cheaper stuff, and not to be offensive or anything like that. But if we were in a high scale area, it'd be harder to get people to come in and pay $9 a haircut, surrounded by expensive businesses. So we wanted to be in a place where people needed budget friendly haircuts. So that's another reason why this location is so great. We have a Little Caesars, we have a Dollar General, we have a Big Lots, there's a Ready Rent, a liquor store, and a vape shop. So a lot of people frequent those every day. And fortunately for us, a lot of the people going to those places want a cheap haircut. So we get a lot of walk-in traffic from the businesses around. And then also so here's another trick you guys can do. We leverage our students. We teach them marketing skills and we have them out on foot marketing for us. So it really does benefit them because they're learning a valuable lesson, but it's bringing us customers and bringing us money. So we printed out a bunch of business cards that are a free haircut. And I'll give each of them, if we're slow, I'll give them all 5 cards. I'm like, hit the street. You can either just sit here and not make money, or you can go out there and find people to cut. Because if you do this in the barbershop, you're going to be broke. You need to get out there and get clients. So they'll go out there and they'll find people and they'll bring them in. And the idea is we teach them how to try to retain those clients. So they'll give them their first one free. They do a great job. The environment's cool. Then they start coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't run a lot of ads for haircuts because ads are expensive and we don't think that we make enough money off of the services to run a bunch of ads. So we leverage our students in the area we're in. We also do free stuff for like schools and students. Whenever we can do anything outreach wise, we do that as well to gain exposure. We'll go, like I go to the churches and I give out free haircut cards at the churches because typically churches, they know people who need help, maybe single mothers or single fathers, or we also give free haircut cards to the local house where what's it called? Like an orphanage. I don't know if it's called an orphanage.
Like adoption or?
Yeah, like where all the unadopted children live. Like they're living in basically like an orphanage. We have one of those here. So we give them free haircuts. And whenever they can bring kids over, we'll cut their hair for free. And a lot of that is positive exposure and they tell people about you.
Now, we getting to the end of the hour. Do you have a little time for Q&A?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would love to answer